Members, I call to order the meeting of the panel on security. This is the election of chairman for 2015-16 session. Members, please note that under ROP 77(6), and if members are the chairman or vice chairman of the statutory advisory bodies, then you cannot be the chairman or deputy chairman of the panel. And under ROP 77(7), members cannot be the chairman of or deputy chairman of more than one panel. And under the House Rules, Appendix IV, we will conduct the election of chairman. I ask members to make nominations. A valid nomination is to be made orally by a member, seconded by at least one other member orally. The nomination will have to be accepted by the member. Any nominations, Mr. Chen Kamlan? I nominate Mr. Ip Kwok Kim. Any seconders? Seconded by Mr. Ma Fong Kwok. I will accept the nomination. Hence, I will ask Mr. Ng Leung Sing, the Deputy Chairman, to conduct the meeting. Any other nominations? Miss Emily Lau. I nominate Mr. James Toh. Any seconders? Seconded by Miss Sid Ho. Mr. Toh, do you accept? I do. Any other nominations? Well, if not, we will start the voting. It will be a secret ballot. I ask the staff to distribute ballot papers and chalk to members. Under the House rule, every candidate is given a number. Please affix a tick against the candidate of your preference. Candidate number 1 is Ip Kwok Kim. Candidate number 2 is James Toh. Since it's a secret ballot, please do not show your ballot paper to other people. When you have completed the ballot papers, please just close the ballot paper without folding it. Altogether, 27 ballot papers have been distributed. If you've fixed the chalk on the ballot papers, then voting is closed. no more ballot papers will be distributed. And I ask ballot papers to be collected. Please, members, put the ballot papers into the box yourself. Do not leave your seat before you have done so. We have collected 27 ballot papers, which is the same as the number distributed. You haven't even counted. How would you know? You have distributed 27 ballot papers, but you have to count them. They're all in the box. You really are something. Don't just regurgitate what you're told. The chairman believes what the staff members have done. No, I require the papers to be counted again. But they were counted as they're put into the box. So you can't assume that staff members don't know what they're doing or just make up the number. Just count the numbers of papers collected. But they are counted as they're put in the box. Don't speculate. I now ask Mr. Chen Kam Lam and Miss Emily Lau to supervise the counting of votes.
好嘅，現在係而家我哋有兩位負責提名嘅議員呢，就
We have two members who have made the nomination supervise the counting of votes. At the end of it, the ballot papers will be destroyed. Number one. Number one. Number two. Number one. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number one. Number one. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. 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 Number 1.
Okay.
Thank you. I now announce the result. Mr. Ip Kwok Him has got 19 votes. Mr. James To 8. Mr. Ip Kwok Him is elected chairman of this panel. Congratulations. Now I ask Mr. Ip Kwok Him to chair the election of the deputy chairman. Thank you for your support. And now is the election of the deputy chairman. The same rules apply. Any nominations? Mr. Lam Tai Fai. I nominate Mr. Chung Kwok Pan. Chung Kwok Pan. Christopher Jones seconds. Mr. Chung, do you accept? Yes, I do. Any other nominations? Mr. Kenneth Leung. I nominate Mr. James To. Any seconders? Seconded by Miss Sid Ho. Mr. To, I accept.
仲有冇提名？如果冇再有人提名呢，我哋呢個提名就結束啦。咁而家呢，就進入到去選舉，請公職人員呢係派發選票。請大家清楚喺呢一個嘅選舉裏邊呢，鍾國斌議員係1號，涂謹申議員係2號啊！請大家呢就喺你嘅選票上面呢，係喺適當嘅位置係作出投票。我見工作人員都已經係翻埋去座位，咁我想問呢，在座有冇議員係未獲選票嘅呢？ 好啦，如果係大家都已經獲取嘅啦，咁我喺度宣佈咧就一個投票嘅程序咧喺度結束，咁咧就工作人員咧不可以再派出選票。現在咧，我請大家咧就喺選票上邊去投票，咁咧亦請我哋委員咧一陣間等我哋工作人員進嚟嘅時候咧，請你哋親自將選票咧放入到去投票箱啊。
Please put the ballot box into the collection box yourself. Staff, please make the necessary arrangement. A total of 27 ballot papers have been distributed. Please vote. All right. So I now would like to invite Mr. Lam Tai Fai and Mr. Kenneth Leung to come out and scrutinize the balloting. Staff, you've already made a count, right? 27 ballot papers have been collected. We will now count the votes and to confirm whether it's really 27. So the two members, please come to the front, Mr. Lam Tai Fai and Mr. Kenneth Leung. So it's confirmed that 27 ballot papers have been collected. So let's start the counting. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number two. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number two. Number two. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number two. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number 1.
So
can the clerk please announce the results? Number 1 nominee, 19 votes. Number 2 nominee, 8 votes. So Mr. Chung Kwok-pan has 19 votes and Mr. James To has 8 votes. And Mr. Chung Kwok-pan is elected as the Deputy Chairman of the Security Panel. Congratulations. Let's move on to agenda item 2, and that is the schedule of meetings for the 2015-16 session. Wow, the list of dates has been tabled. So do we agree that the regular meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. On the first Tuesday of every month? Any question? Well, this is what has been done in the past 3 years. Now, because the special FC will be held from the 1st of April to 8th of April 2016, so we suggest that the regular meeting in April be held on the 12th of April, 1 week later than the original schedule, and the time remains the same. Any question? If not, then let's move on to the items for discussion for the next meeting. And we will be discussing very soon with the relevant secretary on the issues of concern and what items will be proposed by the administration for discussion at the panel. In the November meeting will be held very soon, and the administration proposes 2 items to be discussed. One is the proposed introduction of the registered fire engineer scheme by the Fire Services Department. That's number 1. Number 2, and the 6th report of the People's Republic of China under the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. These 2 items will be discussed at the coming meeting. For the second item proposed, in the past, in fact, in the past 3 years, we invited deputations to a public hearing to give their views. So, members, do you think we should continue with this practice? With regard to torture claims, I think this is an issue of concern to the community recently, and many members have asked me to hold discussions on this. Yes? You're talking about the meeting on the 3rd of November. Well, the hearing is to be held on the 17th of 18th, and the administration may have to answer some questions. So if they come on the 3rd, so please ask them to provide all the responses to the UN as well. Yes, they said that the voluntary report will be submitted to the panel. Well, the report has been submitted to us some months ago, but after the report is published, there will be further questions to be answered. So please, the clerk asked them to give us all the answers as well. And also the concluding remarks of the UN and also observations of the UN, can those be passed to the members as well? Yes. the clerk please provide such information to members. Mr. Michael Tian, with regard to the upcoming items, I would like to suggest that recently there is a video on the website saying that the parents were taking their kid to school and the police officer was giving them a fixed penalty ticket, and then the parents were using foul language to abuse the police. So I think in the next year, I think we should be discussing about a law or legislation on insult to policemen. And also the Shenzhen BCP at the Hong Kong side, a car park will be built. I want to discuss that together with the transport panel. The situation is very problematic now, and there are so many vehicles, and then the car parks are so few. Now, on the Shenzhen side, there is a 2,000 parking spaces car park, but whereas in Hong Kong there is no such facility. So people have to go there by public transport. So this is something that I want to discuss. Yes, I would look into that, Mr. Porter. About torture claims. We've been very concerned about this, but the problem seems to be very serious, and there are so many false claims cases. So should we be discussing that? Should we be tightening up the law? The clerk has jotted that down, I believe. Dr. Kenneth Chan. And we discussed population policy in the last session. One of the focus areas is we want to attract people who have emigrated overseas to come back to Hong Kong, the second generation in particular. And recently I've received some cases, a Hong Kong parent having a kid who wants to come back to Hong Kong, but then an identity card cannot be issued to him or her. But the immigration department hasn't been giving a clear explanation as to why this is the case. So I would like the administration to come and explain to us. Now we have this population policy, so according to the relevant laws, how will the immigration department will deal with it? There will not be any cumbersome process in the second generation overseas to apply to come back to Hong Kong. So Dr. Chen, can you give us the specifics? We will not discuss the cases, individual cases. You are concerned about the law. It has to do with Article 24(2) of the Basic Law and the nationality law as well. So I would be, people are at a loss as to what to do, so I'll give you the information. Can you follow up? At 9 a.m. there will be another meeting, so I think we have to end the discussions here. Item 4 AOB, no AOB, so meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.